What do you got for me?
What's wrong with you people?
I got nothing for you.
What's wrong?
You're not David. How do y'all feel this morning? I feel what? That's how I feel. Well, that was enough for me. We could have had the benediction right there. That was so good.
What's going on, everyone, and welcome to The Reformatory, the podcast for the local church and by the local church, and we are your local churchmen. My name is Josh, and I'm joined, as always, with my co-host in crime, Captain Jack Daddy. Jack, my man, what is happening? It's good to see you.
Hey. Yeah, it's good to see you as always, even though this last couple days, as you know, has been quite the T-bone and blind side of the end of the week.
You've had a week.
Jeez.
You've had a week.
Yeah.
So for those that don't know, Jack obviously went on paternity leave, right? And we had all those interviews. Went great. Jack came back. Things were going good, getting back in the swing of things. His job lets him know out of the blue that he no longer has a job.
Yeah.
They laid him off. And there's obviously lots of different details, but it really no explanation. Honestly, there's really no communication there. So Jack is in the thralls of dealing with that and job hunting and all of the crap that goes with that. So, but Jack, honestly, we've already talked, but that's rough, dude. As someone who knows how that feels, trying to find a job is never fun. So our prayers go out to you trying to find that and land back on your feet. But it's dirty. They do right after paternity leave. That's what got me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's really? You're going to...
I would just say this to all those listeners out there: be aware of what companies, how they try and recruit you. I mean, the biggest thing for me is that my former employer was basically, they were trying to sell me the moon and say all this stuff about me, and then, I mean, literally, before I went on paternity leave, things were I was getting affirmed. I was getting encouraged in my role.
Yeah.
And then,
no red flags, nothing like that.
Literally, no red flags. And then just getting T-bone blindsided out of nowhere. Last Friday was, whew.
Yeah.
Not if that's the way y'all, if that's the way y'all do business, all right, maybe it was the Lord's doing in getting me out of there that way, even though I didn't like it. But in any case, we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm pretty honestly the support, the prayers that some of you guys have reached out with has been amazing, and just there's people that have texted me, given me phone calls, let me know about different roles, different ways to go about getting into recruiting back again, which I'm gonna do. I mean, that's my primary way of making funds right now for my family, is being a recruiter for companies. So there's stuff that's promising. And I think that this Sunday, this Lord's Day, was definitely needed for that encouragement and building up when you just get completely throttled by the world, right? Like I did on Friday. Right. So I'm thankful that I have my church family there along with me, and even one of my pastors, shout out to Pastor Ryan, who has gone through unemployment and stuff like that, and we've been talking a lot as well too. And so that helps when you have people in your corner in your local church. And it also helps.
The church is for, man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's what it's for. That's why we're in each other's lives. It's not just a spiritual thing, it's a practical thing. Yeah. It's awesome. But You'll find it. The next job will come around. It always does. But yeah, a crappy way to end last week. But but we're already on the upside. We're moving up. But Jack, before we hop into our topic today, my friend, will you please do us the honor of giving us the Reformatory Cigar of the Week?
Yes. So as Josh has put out on the Sociables, August is for apostates.
That's what it is, dude. Okay. All right. Before we continue, do you know how I agonized over that? Because I knew I was going to put that up, and someone's going to be like, "What are you talking about? What do you mean it's apostasy? You're endorsing heresy? Are we celebrating apostasy? What's happening here?" I knew I was going to have to deal with that guy, but you know what? It was just so catchy. I couldn't not do it. Like the branding side in my head was like, do it. And I had to.
It's the people going.
Yeah, exactly. But yes, August is for apostates.
Yes. Apostate Cigars, as Josh and I have talked about in the past, is started by guys who are deemed apostates from the Mormon Church, from the Church of Latter-day Saints, because they have partaken in the gift that Josh and I would say of smoking cigars. And so most of the line that you hear from us throughout kind of this month as we go through their cigar line is based upon certain pieces of either Mormon doctrine or Mormon lore or something along those lines that interacts with Mormonism in some way, shape, or form. And so...
And I feel like, I hate that we have to do this. We're not endorsing Mormonism. All right,
no,
people.
We're not.
We're not linking arms with Mormonism.
We're
not encouraging Mormonism. All right. Let's be clear here. All right, we're enjoying some cigars that are blatantly not Mormon. All right, so exactly. That being stated, Jack, please continue.
Okay, so the cigar that we're going to talk about today is called the Lehona. The background of this, the Lehona is another scriptural term that refers to a compass of divine origin that helped guide God's people to the promised land. I don't know if that's Mormons or if that's going back to the Red Sea or not. I don't think that's going back to the Red Sea. In any case, this is a 6x52 torpedo as far as the vitola size of it. This is primarily a Connecticut wrapper that's from Ecuador. The binder is San Andreas, Mexican, and the filler is Paraguay and Dominican Republic.
Yeah.
So this is a very complex cigar. I would say that it's a very good one if you're starting out to smoke cigars as well too. It's got kind of this graham cracker taste, toast tastings. There's a little bit of sweetness here and there. Nothing too crazy as far as overpowering. So I think this is a good cigar for somebody who's starting out, who's just not there to like go into the Maduros right now. But it's something to start out into. I think the MSRP is somewhere around, I know that at my local brick and mortar, I think it was like $9 to $11.
Yeah.
So anywhere from $9 to $11 you're looking at as far as MSRP goes. This is not like, it has some good filler and stuff like that, but as far as, it's not a flavor bomb. You're going to get kind of waves in the different thirds of the cigar. So this is a good starting off cigar if you have not smoked any cigars and you're looking for something. We definitely recommend this.
So there we go. All right, the La Jolla by Apostate Cigars. It's Apostates all month. Really good sticks. Oh, and one of the Apostate guys is actually going to be up at Sacred Smoke next week. So Jack might be an excuse for you to pop up here and come visit.
Yeah.
So it's the La Jolla by Apostate Cigars. That is the Reformatory Cigar of the Week, and you know what to do. Go and smoke to the glory of God. All right, Jack. So today, my friend, we have, we're stepping into the deep end. All right, you had a month off. right? We gave you a break, right? You had all of this time to think and recuperate, rejuvenate, right? And then we come back and it's time to jump into the deep end. Today, Jack, we are going to attempt to answer the question, why does the church fight so much? Okay? This is a big question. This was actually this topic kind of stemmed out of a convo that I was actually having with our previous co-host Daniel, as we were talking about a lot of like the infighting that we see within the local church, specifically and especially online. Right, the propensity and the leaning toward an aggressive demeanor toward one another that seems to almost be the natural state of many individuals. We're just kind of contemplating that and throwing those around, and then I pitched it to you, and you know, as we're trying to throw our thoughts together, man, like I can't help but. I can't help but think of all of the current dramas that we are seeing today, right? Especially especially on social media, right? And that is, I think, where the majority of this critique is going to be centered on. Because let's be honest, I'm not seeing this in my local church, right? The vast majority of things, I would say 98. Yep. To 99% of things that individuals are choosing to get all up in arms about on the Twitter, it's not the Twitter, on the X, right, or on the Facebook, right, they are not applicable in my local church. They're not coming up. People aren't talking about them. People aren't arguing about it. I don't have to worry about it. And the only place that it lives is this fake place that we call social media, right? Yeah. But it brings up the question, Jack. And within that question is, I believe, an observation that the church, especially the American church today, especially let's hit us where we're home, right? In Reformdom, in Calvinistic theological circles, in confessional circles, we got a problem with fighting. We really do. Sure. And it's a problem that I don't think we, one of the problems is that I don't think we see it as a problem. In that we see so many individuals that almost seem to relish the controversy, right? So, Jack, there's a lot to be said here, man, and I think as dark and frustrating as this is, I think there's great application for the local church and great encouragement that can be found for us and our listeners that I hope and I assume are attempting to lean into their local churches, to make their local churches more central, right? To keep the focus on their local church and not get distracted by the things that are going around. But I want to throw it over to you first, Jack, and maybe to tackle it as a question or dive into the observation. Why do we seem to have this propensity toward infighting with each other?
Well, I mean, to take it back to even like John 17, this is kind of stuck in my mind for a very long time. Jesus is praying for all of his disciples, and he's praying for the people that would know him, that would come to faith in him, the church that would come forward and be established. And he's praying for all believers, and it's almost like Jesus knows that there will be divisions when he's praying for people in that kind of high priestly prayer language in John 17. And so it's almost like, in some senses, God already knows, like, you guys are not going to be a united people, and that's going to be your downfall. You're not going to be completely united, and so that's going to be an uphill battle that you're going to have to face every single time that you gather, every single time that you're out in the public square, that you're talking to other Christians, is that you're not going to be completely 100% on each other's sides of the story when it comes to what the mission looks like, how it metastasizes, theology, everything, right? When it comes to the things of God, you're not going to be 100% there. I mean, shoot, in the Reformation, Luther and Zwingli met up, and the big crux was, I think it was communion. They agreed on everything else, and then communion just dug that wedge into them, and it was like they were enemies for the rest of the time that they lived out their lives. And so, I mean, things can be, in that sense, though, when we are faced with all those things, I think we just need to go back to the fact that we are missionaries in foreign lands. We are exiles. We are elect exiles of God, put there for a reason, to be a witness, to also to share the gospel, to spread that seed of the gospel to and forth, so that it would take root in people's hearts, and that hopefully the Holy Spirit would use that to the glory of God, and that people would become believers out of that. People would join local churches, that the kingdom would grow that way. But I mean, this is typical of God's people. We get off track, off focus, and it's typical for us to do this. We'll just infight. We'll just go back to, well, we don't really want to commit to that. We want the drama. We want the smoke. So
we
want
it.
to yeah.
You know?
So I mean, we want that propensity to, I don't know if it's a propensity to like purge off the truly, you know, we talk about this sometimes, purge off those who are not truly reformed, right? Purge those people off who are not really believers, because they haven't attained this certain knowledge, right? And we can't go back to this, like, we can't be like the Gnostics, where we like think that if you've attained this level of knowledge, like, you have the secret to life. That we can't be that way. Like, we need to go back to the early church in that sense and say, like, we can't do that. We also can't be people that just, like, I don't know, are very just, that's all we want to do is fight. Like, is that what we want to be known to when it comes to our neighbor who's not a believer, and that's all they see in the church is you guys are just drama. Why should I even come on Sunday to even hear this gospel of yours when you guys are just drama? So those are my initial salvo of thoughts as we dive into this topic right now. So
no, I think it's really good, man. And I think it would behoove us to go to James, right? James chapter 4. You know, when he asked the question, what causes fights and quarrels among you, right? It's that you want and you don't have, so you murder, right? It's that you desire one thing and you're not given it, so you covet, so you slander, right? And he explains that, like, the root of your propensity to fight and to cause quarrels and to have that division, at the root of it, it's because you're not getting what you want. Like, you're not getting what you want, so you're throwing a tantrum, right? And that's honestly the first thing that comes to my mind when I see all this stuff on Twitter and all this stuff on social media. Whether it be the current arguments of the day with, like, gender roles, what defines a man, in the church, the roles of men and women in churches, freaking biblicism, and Aquinas, like that gem's still going on, and there's it is. Jack, there's so much time and so many articles and so much breath being spent on this topic that at the end of the day, like, and here's the thing, I know I can hear the voices, right? And I think this has something to do with it also, right? I think one of the reasons that we fight so much is because we have a propensity to turn everything into an essential issue. And you see that especially with the whole Aquinas biblicism topic, right? Is anyone who's, both sides are lobbing grenades over at each other, right? And anyone, like, I will say, like me, who's trying to be in the middle and say, guys, look, you agree on so much more than you guys think. This thing is super small. That middle person gets murdered by both sides. Because they're like, well, you don't understand the importance and the significance that this has. It's like, no. Here's the thing: I am not the sharpest knife in the drawer. There are guys and gals on both sides of this argument that could wipe the floor with me with their education, wipe the floor with me intellectually, right? And they could argue circles around me. But I like to think I understand what an essential doctrine and what an essential issue is, and what's not, and what's worth. Planting a flag down and saying, here I stand, I can do no other, God help me. And when the situation doesn't require that, right? And I really think, Jack, that part of the problem that we see, and part of the reason that we see so much of this division within the local church, especially within our camp of Reformdom, is because too many people aren't taking the time to evaluate whether or not what they're arguing is to the level of importance that they are making it. So we have so many people that are, hailing this as the most important thing right now. This is the most important thing right now. And here's the thing. I'm, like I said, I'm not this, super smart intellectual guy, but I think I do pretty well at connecting dots. And in my head, what makes sense to me, Jack, is that if something is truly that important, and if something is truly spreading like wildfire, like people are saying it is, I feel like I would be having to deal with that in my local church.
Sure. Yeah.
And frankly, I'm not. I'm not having to deal with it. I'm having to deal with a whole bunch of other things that take my time and take my effort and take my attention. But it's ironic to me, and it's very telling to me that all of these things that I am being told is one of the greatest threats to the gospel, is paramount in our day. That the biblicism argument is like this is the argument of the 21st century. I feel like I would see the ripples. I feel like I would have to be dealing with it in my church if that were true, to any degree. And I'm just not. I'm just not. And to me, that is one barometer that tells me I don't think that this is worth the effort that a lot of people are putting into it. And it comes back to that thing. Like, people want to be seen a certain way. They want their way. They want others to believe what they want to believe. They're not getting it. They're not getting their way. Mm-hmm. So they're quarrelsome. Those are that's my thought on it, man.
Yeah, I think even too some people just want to be martyrs and they want to go out there on the front lines and try to be examples, And it's just like, okay, but I think the biggest thing that Josh and I keep going back to is this really taking root in your local church, or are these just kind of like, even what Paul says, like civilian affairs almost? Mm-hmm. Like, are these even worth the time to just keep going after? And it's like, I get some degree of how that can trickle down. I get some degree, but is it a major epidemic in a local church, like you're having infighting because of this?
Yeah.
Most likely not. Like let's be honest, 90% of your congregation is not going on the sociable formerly known as Twitter, X, and basically looking at all these theology debates, thinking that, oh my gosh, this is going to corrupt everybody in the local church. No, let's be honest. Most people in your local church are dealing with life issues. They're just trying to stay afloat.
Yeah.
They're just trying to live out their life in faith and obedience to Jesus. And this is not, I just want to be clear too, this is not a cop-out, because some people will listen to this episode from us and say, you guys are just copping out, you guys are virtue signaling, you guys are just saying, oh, this isn't important. I think that's, in certain circles, maybe. maybe. But to the majority of your local church, nobody really cares. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Most people care.
Look.
Most people care about the simple fact of just really basic questions. Is God for me? That's a question that every single believer that I know in my local church may struggle with throughout their week, and then they come to the Lord's Supper, and just like on this last Sunday, like, I am there to basically give them that gospel hope. Like, if you have placed your faith and trust in Jesus, like, there is now no condemnation for you. I know you feel like absolute garbage, but guess what? Like, communion is a way to show us this sign and this seal that God has done for us. And that should motivate us to keep going forward. But for us to regress in a way in which we start making the church out to be like just this, I don't know, this factory of theological academics to where we just fight all the time, like, nobody's coming to Christ through that.
Well, and it doesn't do anybody any good. Like that's my point. Is I look at the things that the things that I deal with, the things that the average local church pastor has to deal with, right? Like, you have people coming into your office struggling with substance abuse, right? Broken relationships, anger issues, depression, anxiety, right? Infidelity, right? Miscarriages. Right, like these are the things that the people are talking about. Things that Jack's talking about. Having a correct understanding of the gospel. Like, this person comes in. I was raised to think that unless I was, perfect, that God was going to that my salvation can be lost. Right, and I have these jokers telling me that biblicism is the thing that I need to be focusing on. Dude, probably 3/4 of my congregation doesn't know what biblicism is.
Yeah.
Like, they don't even know what it means. And to be honest, like, I look at it, I'm like, that, like, wrapping my head around it. It's like, I'm not dealing with it. And, like, look, I'm not saying that theological discussions aren't important. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have these discussions and do our due diligence to be as theologically correct and biblical as possible. That's what we should do. All right? I will never, ever advocate to not study theology. I'm a massive theology nerd. I love studying it, right? But it has to have some sort of practical value, right? Yeah. And not just practical value, but we have to understand the place that it's supposed to have, right? So if you're taking this very, very niche, let's be honest, very niche theological concept that everyone's trying to make an essential, and you're blowing it up to now, dude, like I'm not gonna name names or anything like that, but like, people are breaking fellowship over this thing. There are individuals that are breaking fellowship with one another, calling one another apostates, not the cigars. All right, there are churches that are breaking up over this. That to me is asinine. Like, that's not even losing the forest through the trees. Like you don't even you don't even see trees. And I look at stuff like that, and I think, like, and I say this with all the grace in my, like, I'm coming from a place of it. I'm not coming from a place of, like, on my high horse. Like, I'm coming from a place of trying to plead with my brothers. Like, I look at stuff like that, and I'm like, do you honestly have this much time on your hands? is writing these articles and arguing this stuff, is this honestly what you deem to be the best use of your time in the day and age that we find ourselves in right now? Because I, as someone who struggles with that and has the propensity to fight and feels the energy that comes from conflict, I need all the help and encouragement and accountability that I can get to keep the main things the plain things and the plain things the main things. right?
Yeah.
A little nod to Alistair Begg. And Jack, I feel like we have lost so much of that, and the church, the local church, is going to be the one that suffers because we have forgotten our marching orders, man. Like we are because here's the look. Here's the thing. The church, like there's a reason that Paul refers so many times to this Christian walk, the Christian himself, the church in militaristic terms, right? Right? We fight the good fight, right? He talks about the armor of God, right? We talk about soldiers of Christ, right? The church has been given the tools and I think the energy to fight. We have our marching orders from our general and our King, Jesus. And we're going to direct that energy, that specific equipping that God has given his people to march and to march fervently. We're going to use that energy either in a beneficial way or an unbeneficial way. And if we lose focus of our marching orders, specifically to advance the kingdom of Christ by proclaiming the gospel and living the gospel in a broken world, if we forget that is where the vast majority of our energy needs to go, our energy is going to be diverted to fighting in our camp because we're not out fighting the war. So with all this time on our hands, man, like idle hands are the devil's playground, right? So we're going to be in camp, not on the front lines, not fighting, forgetting our orders, and we're in our tent with all of our comrades, and we're at each other's throats. And that's what I think is going on right now, is we have a lot of energy, and we have forgotten where that energy is supposed to be directed.
Yeah, and I think that this would be a more applicable topic if we were talking about how so many churches are deficient in their understanding of the doctrine of the Trinity. Like, that is a huge
absolutely.
issue of the
100%.
day.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Or
there's
the deity
a
of Christ. Right? Or imputed righteousness. Like something where it's like, if you get this wrong, you're not a believer. You know?
Sure. Yeah. Like, there is a big difference between that and ensuring that main thing that we fight for is upheld in the church versus, I would say, tertiary things.
Yeah.
Tertiary understanding of things, even sometimes. So, yeah, I think that this is, man, I don't know. It's sort of weird. I don't know if it has to take like a cataclysmic event to basically that we rally around other believers in. I don't know if it's going to take that, because I think some people are just going to be still really hard-hearted to the issue of, well, this church is this way and this church is that way. And so, breaking that fellowship, I would say that it's more of an imperative if a church is not equipped to teach the doctrine of the Trinity, there needs to be some serious talking more about that than the Aquinas or Biblicism issues of the day, to be quite honest. Like, those can take a back seat until we understand those main things very plainly. So I think it's just really, man, we want to squabble about every single thing of our day, and sometimes you can get bored. And so what do you do when you get bored? It's like, well, let's get some hot takes going on these people.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and here's the thing. Like, I agree with you. I don't know what it's going to take. It might take something big to get people to kind of shaken up and realize that the things we're arguing about just in the grand picture of things don't matter. Like, I would rather the unity that comes from all of the 99% that we do agree with. I'd rather focus on that. I don't know what it's going to take, but I know what's going to help right now. And that's a focus on your local church. Like, honestly, it's amazing how much that focus changes things. And the benefit that comes from, you know what, I'm not going to get distracted by all the things that people are telling me are important. The people in front of me are important because those are the people that God has placed in your life. Your local church should be your primary constituents when it comes to your energy, right? And I would rather be so tuckered out at the end of the day serving my people, dealing with the real issues that they have, the real sorrows that they have, the real joys that they have. I'd rather be so tired at the end of the day after dealing with those that I don't have any time or effort to even care what so-and-so says on so-and-so topic, because it doesn't affect me. And it doesn't matter, because I'm filling my time, I'm filling my hours, I'm filling my day with the things that do matter. And it's the real lives in my local church. Yeah. And not the fake drama that we see on Twitter. So, Jack, like, I think I would want to encourage, if people are going to ask, well, what would you say to these guys? I'd say focus on your local church more. If when you feel the pull to write that article, or you feel the pull to write, that like 1,000-word essay of a tweet, because apparently people can do that now, right? Take the time and be like, I could spend 10 minutes writing this out, or I could take that 10 minutes and give so-and-so from my church a call. Yeah. Out of the blue. See how they're doing.
Yep.
Invest in their life. The world would be a much, what does he say? I think it's The Hobbit. Like, it'd be a much merrier world if people valued that over, their wars and their fighting. I'm convicted of that the more and more that I'm in ministry, the older I get, and the more I see that my energy is not infinite. Like, I have a finite amount of time, I have a finite amount of energy, and it matters what I spend it on. It really does.
Yeah, and I think it really does depend too on where your local church is at. In a bigger metropolitan area, when you get closer into the inner city, more cults are going to be prevalent, like in that inner city, to pull people away, because they twist scripture and then they twist Christology to basically make it bend to their will. And so, in Tacoma, it's been like this. Like, we have Hebrew Israelites on street corners cosplaying, and but I think this is so important too, because they are just as militaristic, and they will get just as many people from being militaristic that way, but it doesn't do anybody any good.
No.
And so we really just got to look at priorities. Like, would I rather invest my time in praying for my community that maybe have a huge issue in certain neighborhoods with cults basically sucking people in and just kind of tickling their ears, or do I invest that time on this very niche topic of debate,
Right.
I think that's what we have to answer at the end of the day. Like, is this worth the time and energy of you being a missionary on mission? Like, is this being a witness effectively, or is this kind of self-serving to a certain degree? So
Is this thing worth you placing the people that God has placed in front of you on hold? That's the answer that that's the question we gotta answer. Like, is it worth that? Because effectively, that's what we're doing. You know what I'm saying? But Jack, there's so much more that could be said, man. There's so much more that probably should be said. But at the end of the day, folks, like, you're gonna hear the same tune from us, man. It hasn't changed. After 200 episodes, hasn't changed. Focus on your local church. It's good for your people, and it's good for you. And in that focus, you're gonna find much joy. And just drive and passion and just everything that people seem to be longing for and trying to look for in other places. You're going to find that in your local church. So that's what you get from us. So Jack,
exactly,
my friend, why don't you get us out of here?
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, if you appreciate Josh and I's focus on how you can be centered on your local church, how you can be invested in those people's lives of your local church members, you can join us and continue focusing on the Reformatory maybe and how we bring up these different topics by checking out these sociable pages that we're on. We're on the Metaverse, the Facebook, we're on the Instagram, goes well with chocolate and marshmallow, and we are on the Sociable, formerly known as Twitter, X. I don't know anything other to say it like that because it's so weird.
It sounds like an 80s hip hop artist. Formerly known as
sounds like
X.
It sounds like I'm trying to buy drugs if I'm going trying to propagate a sociable now these days. Anyways, you can find us on all of those sociable sites at the tag at Reformatory Pod. Josh, you can tell the lovely people how they might continually support us in different ways.
That's right. There are many ways that you can do that. One, if you are on Apple or Spotify, give us a little like and a rating on just got to scroll down. Give us a little 5-star for 5 solas. We'd really appreciate that. It helps the podcast get out to more people. We are on YouTube now. Head to youtube.com/reformatorypod. All right. If you like listening to this podcast, guess what? You can see this podcast now. Don't know why you'd want to do that, but you can. You can make that happen. All right. Last but not least, if you feel the inkling, you could head on over to patreon.com and become a supporter of the Reformatory for a $5 holla. Join the Podluck and get access to amazing exclusive content. Bonus episodes, multiple bonus episodes every week. Exclusive video content, exclusive access to Jack and I, right, for only $5. And if you do so, our pledge to you is that your name shall be hallowed.
Hallowed, sir. Hallowed.
Hallowed through the halls of this podcast. That is our pledge to you. We thank you all for listening, and we will catch you on the next step of the Reformatory.